What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads, fathers, and male caregivers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. Broadcasting live on September 20th, the last Saturday. No, it isn't the last Saturday. It's the second last Saturday. It's the last Saturday for Primetime Saturday with Aisha and LaLa, but it's not the last Saturday of the year, but it's the last Saturday for Primetime Saturday. And people say, wow, it's looking a little different. Dr. Vibe, where are you? Well, little background story. I get up most mornings at around 6 o'clock in the morning. And got up this morning, no problem. Went to my computer to just make sure, because I had some stuff to do early this morning. I like working early in the morning on the internet, get things out of the way, etc. No internet. Going, okay, troubleshooting with the modem. Nothing's happening. So 6:30 in the morning, I call my internet service provider and I do all the testing. Say, oh, we got to put in a ticket. Okay, we don't know when it's going to be resolved. All right, so I'm going, all right, pivot, because a lot of things, this is planning ahead is always important. I had set up a lot of things for the next few days ahead of time. Great, no problem. Come back in the afternoon about 1:30ish, give the internet service provider a call. And I say, yeah, oh, they just launched a outage in your area. I'm going, okay, from 6:30 in the morning to 1:30, it took them that long to realize there was an outage. And I knew there was something going on too, because when I call back the second time, oh, high volume of calls, your wait time will be 15 minutes. Okay, something's going on, because I thought originally it was my modem. But I'm going, okay, other people are experiencing this. All right. So this is another reason why it's good to have good parents. Is why it's good to treat your parents well, especially when you live in the same city as they do. So called up my dad and said, Daddy, I need a favor from you. He goes, anything for you, son, anything I can do. He says, I need to do the show from here to hey, your show? Priority. I'm going, it's not that much of a priority, but it's a priority. And he said, hey, no problem. All right, so this is why you're seeing the darkness in the background. It's a little bit of different lighting. I did the best I can with lighting. I had some ring lights. I forgot them at home. Don't worry. We just get the job done. So it's been a little bit of a topsy-turvy day, but we've got it done. The next big concern is tomorrow morning. I'm supposed to be doing a facilitation at 8 a.m. in the morning. So I'm speaking that my internet will be back up. If not, I'll be doing a return visit to the parents' place tomorrow morning. But that's been a little bit of my craziness. And actually, Primetime Saturday, you're used to seeing Aisha and LaLa. Well, LaLa's not going to be with us. She definitely needs some time off. We're not going to get into it. We got to pray. If you are a praying person, please pray for her and her family. They're going through a very challenging time in the holiday season, like a doubly challenging time. And Dr. Tati was supposed to join us. She started not feeling well on Thursday. She showed up on my morning vibe show with myself, Ryan, and Roger Dundas of Vibe Blacks yesterday morning, but I hadn't checked my Instagram, and then last night she said, Dr. Vibe, I may have to skip tomorrow's show because I'm feeling achy and I want to rest. Hey, no problem. So have no fear. Aisha K. Staggers is here. What is up, Aisha
And
K.
I
Staggers?
wasn't supposed to be here. And
That's
I
true
wasn't
too.
supposed to be here today.
You weren't supposed to be here either, right? You weren't supposed to be here either, but you said with LaLa's situation, we're not going to get into it. That you said you'd show up with that. Yeah. So lot of stuff going on. By the way, is my audio okay?
Your audio is better now, but there is a Wi-Fi glitch. So I'm not sure if it's on your end or my end. Delay, but it's picked up.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So,
Yeah.
folks, this is different than the usual, but we're still pushing through. Give us what's been going on in your world.
Well, we're going to talk about Trump and healthcare when we get into talking to the speech, but I have been navigating some health challenges. So that has been really consuming my my time these days. When I'm not catching up on what's going on at the news, I am at a doctor's office. So um,
Mm.
my my hope going to the new year is that everybody, if you haven't already scheduled physicals for the start of the year, please do get yourself checked out. Need to know what's going on, and also really advocate for yourself, because for something that it's not simple. um I'll share what this week's challenge was. I found a lump in my breast
Oh,
uh about two about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and had to repeat a mammogram and ultrasound, and I was told it's probably benign. And I decided, okay, that's not an answer that's good enough. I need to know for sure. So I really had to fight and fight and fight. And so now I'm on my way to the next steps with this. But then I also have other health issues. I just had surgery last week. And that's literally what I woke up to in my surgery, was that there was a mass in my breast from my mammogram. So,
wow.
yeah, and so when I had to repeat the mammogram this week, and it's definitely there. And now it's a matter of finding out what that mass is and what the next steps are with that. Um, you know, my doctor gave me the scores, that how they score the masses. 1 is nothing, 2 is something that's for sure benign, 3 is likely benign but needs more testing, and 4 and 5 are serious. I'm at 3. So um, the
Ouch.
yeah, so I'm not I am a little scared. The scariness for me is not knowing, being told by one
That's the
doctor,
thing.
right? Being told by one doctor who wasn't even going to see me anyway. They're just the people that read, the doctors that read the the um the images, and saying to me, well, repeat it in 6 months, and then another 6 months after that, and then in a year, if it's still there, we'll biopsy. I'm not waiting a year, right? Because that is how Black
No.
women die from diseases, by waiting, and doctors feeling like it's comfortable enough to wait. The longer you wait for things like that, the shorter or the fewer options you have when it comes to treatment, if you need any. So for me, I was the doctor that did surgery for me last Monday uh, was a gynecologist. So when I woke up and I got the alert on my phone from the about the mammogram to check, um, I just looked at his nurse and I said, "Can he deal with this when I'm when I'm more lucid?" And she said, "Sure." And so he's taken over that care and has me. I already have an appointment scheduled for a breast surgeon and specialist. This is her specialty, and complicated cases are what she focuses on. So I feel comfortable in that.
So this has not been the greatest of health year for you.
No, it hasn't, because I'm like a body of polyps. I feel like I had uterine polyps removed, 4. They actually only thought they had 1, and they found 4. So, but I also had polyps in my stomach, intestine, and colon this year too. Those were removed. They were fine. The ones in my uterus have been tested. They are fine, but I do need to have a hysterectomy, because I will keep repeating this cycle of polyps without that. So that's what I'm waiting for. In March, I'll be having that procedure done. So you guys might not get me for 6
Okay.
weeks in March, between March and
Y-
April.
Yeah, I'm feeling that. A question for you.
Mhm.
Do you have a win you can share with us since we were last live?
Yes, actually, my win was that I realized how complicated things are in the medical system with care coordination. That you know, doctors, if it's not a doctor's specialty and they find something else in a test, they're not telling patients that, hey, this thing is in your test, you need to look. Because I had a doctor who was looking for something else. I had IBS for 3 years before I knew it,
Wow.
because they didn't think to mention, hey, you might want to go and talk to this doctor about this. We found this, but we don't treat that. We're focused on this. Instead, it was, well, we treat this, not that. So we're not going to even mention it. And if you don't know how to read your my chart, or as obsessed about reading your charts as I am, you don't know what to do. So one of the things I'm looking forward to is it's going to take some time, but establishing a business that does this for people, that does those kinds of things. And like, okay, after a visit, do you under and just helping people, do you understand what was said? Hey, I saw this in your test. I don't know that your doctor mentioned it to you, but this is something you might want to consult with this kind of doctor. Do you need me to find one for you in your area and make an appointment? I mean, those kinds of things, because honestly, people are so consumed with doing life and living and taking care of things and working and being able to pay bills, taking care of the kids, that this healthcare thing can be like another full-time job.
It is.
It
It
is. And
is.
so
It
what
is.
I my win this week was I completed a plan for what that kind of care coordination and advocacy would look like as a business.
I think there's a huge need for it. Like even here where I live, I will ask people like, "Do you have a doctor?" And
Hmm.
it's surprising and concerning how
Yeah.
many people don't have a doctor. And there's also a doctor shortage here where I'm in the greater Toronto area, and that's a whole other conversation. But people just they go, "Well, I don't know where to start to find
Yeah.
one."
Yeah. And I'm
There's
finding
a need.
that the bigger the healthcare system, the more, the less care. Because see, I
There
think
you
that
go.
we've taken care out of healthcare, and that's what I really want to provide, because people need support too. I mean, honestly, I'm not excited about going to see my PCP again after my last visit, which, I was really just wanting to talk to him and ask him, hey, can you tell me what I need to be asking about this breast thing? And about the hysterectomy, what are the questions I need to be asking to make sure that I'm getting the proper treatment? And I just came away from that appointment feeling like he rushed me through it, and that it was like, why are you even having this appointment? So for me, that's a signal that, and he's been my PCP for a long time. For me, that's a symbol that maybe 10 years is enough and I need to find someone else who cares. Because I can't
You
tell
know,
you,
it's
the gynecologist I
I,
got, he's outside of that system. And when
mhm.
I say his bedside manner, his caring, his attention to detail, and desire to make me feel like, hey, we're gonna help you, made a difference.
Yeah, and I keep on mentioning this, and I don't need mention it to brag, but I mention it to inspire people to do it. See my doctor
Hmm.
every
And
month,
see,
and I'm in a system that I can do that. It doesn't cost me anything, and and again, I'm blessed too. This is also some encouragement that my dad and I have the same doctor. So
mhm,
any health challenges his family side has experienced, my doctor is right on it and is always looking to say, huh. So, do our blood tests every 2 or 3 months. And anything him and I've had the same doctor. Next time I go there, I'm going to find, but it's at least 20 years, if not 20,
mhm,
easily 20 years plus. So people say, well, why do you go to the doctor every month? Well, I'm getting older. And the thing
mhm.
is, hey, if I don't have to pay for a visit to someone who is going to look after me, I'm not going to, even if he says I'm in perfect health, I don't take it for granted, because once I leave the doctor's office, things can deteriorate.
Right.
So I do it.
It's like a car. You take it off the lot, and the
Yeah,
moment you take it off the lot, anything can happen. But I'm in the
100%.
same situation. My mom and I have the same PCP, and but I don't get that continuity the way you see. They keep things very separate here. HIPAA makes doctors very careful, so they keep things very separate here. But the other side of it too is that we have a healthcare system where not only can people not afford regular checkups, because honestly we probably should be getting checkups once a month or at least every 2-3 months, right? But people, one, can't afford it, and two, the scheduling is so crazy. I mean, the reason I ended up at
Mm,
a totally different healthcare service for the gynecological care was that I went to make just a regular appointment in January of this year to deal with hormone replacement for perimenopause. And they told me our first available is April 2026. That was in January. I came back to them and I'm like, well, I went, to Planned Parenthood because they took me right then and there. They took my care serious. They were the ones who hooked me up with this other gynecologist. And they were like, hey, we found, yeah, there's polyps here. We'll put some referrals out to different doctors for you. Well, the doctor that's in my normal healthcare system, I called them to schedule. Yeah, well, we got a referral, so we're booking to April 2026. I'm like, but yeah, but I have polyps. They found those. That's why I'm needing to see you sooner. Well, we just don't have any openings till April 2026, and that was in August or September, right? This doctor at UConn,
got it.
they called me the next day and had me in his office within 3 weeks.
Wow.
Right. And so
Wow.
there's that kind of problem I think that we have in this country where people that's the other thing. It's like you call to make an appointment and it's not the people's fault who are doing the scheduling. It's not the scheduler's fault. I always make sure to tell them, I know it's not your fault. I'm just a little frustrated. But it's always to a point where, oh, we don't have anything anytime soon. Well, if you get a crushing issue or something that you're like kind of like, hey, yeah, I kind of need this to be looked at before 6-7 months, a year. Because April 2026 from January was more than a year. Okay. And
Yeah.
so that right there tells us that our system of healthcare is broken.
Yeah. Okay.
And I wish that we were a better country on that aspect.
I think you and others in your country, and just for people who may be watching this for the first time, Aisha's in Connecticut in the US. I'm in Toronto. So we're international conversation. It's always been like that for many years. But people say, oh, where do you
Yeah.
talk? Where do you guys live? Where do you guys live? Okay, that's a misnomer on that.
Right.
But yeah, so all right, well,
And I also live in
let's
a state where there is a pretty much a big monopoly on healthcare. Yale University, the Yale New Haven Health, has pretty much monopolized most of the state in terms of healthcare, and even private practices, which my PCP is, they're affiliated with the hospital so that they can, do work there if they need to, and that becomes a problem because they
mm,
take on the um, they take on the kind of, I guess, sometimes lackadaisical uh, air that you get sometimes from Yale.
100%. All right, well, let's take a break. We'll be back in a few moments. And what we're going to do is we'll do some housekeeping and we'll get into some stories. So, last prime time Saturday with Aisha and LaLa. We're just Aisha today and Dr. Vibe, but we're still live. We'll be back in a few moments.
Check out the Morning Vibe on Mondays and Fridays at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Dr. Vibe Show YouTube channel with Dr. Vibe and Ryan Knight, where they discuss important subjects between themselves or have conversations with people who you need to know about.
All right, we are back. Prime time Saturday with Aisha, K Staggers, and Dr. Vibe today. So let's do some housekeeping Keeping Girlfriends Chat with Aisha, LaLa, and Jill Jones at Patreon. In the past, still I think a little bit on Substack, and I gotta talk to Substack because they've changed how you they've changed the configuration of broadcasting live. So I don't know where that's coming from right now, but I hear that I think last time we were on live, Aisha, your goal is to move it over to YouTube. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's my goal, to move it to YouTube for the new year.
New year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's going to be an easier
Yeah,
way to do it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I from my thought is it'll be easier to grow that on YouTube than any other platform.
Yeah.
All right. Primetime Saturday Show store is there. The link is there. Join the Discord group. It's there also for many of you who are either watching this live on the replay in most of the platforms you're watching this. All this is in the comments section already. Also subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. And also follow Dr. Vibe on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Substack. If you want to advertise your business product or service on anything that I'm a part of, feel free to email me, dr.vibe at the dr.vibeshow.com. And finally, she's not here, but Dr. Tachi, never forget, she is the power behind Indie Soup TV, which is an independent content creators platform, has over 28,000 YouTube subscribers in 2 years. And remember, only 4% of all YouTube channels have over 10,000 subscribers. And I don't feel bad because I hit 2,000 subscribers a month ago, and only 10% of all YouTube channels have over 1,000 subscribers. So one of the reasons why is this show, by the way. All right, let's get into it. He had his another moment. Well, he's had many moments this past week. 47 highlights victories amid sinking approval ratings during his broadcast to the nation this week. Aisha, lean in.
Well, I watched it. Let's start with a little bit of background. It has not been a good week for the complainer in chief. Has not been a good week. So, week starts with a terrible, terrible tragedy in at Brown University, and his comments were so flippant, right? And then we're going to talk about Rob Reiner later, but there was that. And then the ball dropped with the interview, the Vanity Fair interview of his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, who basically said that he had a, quote, alcoholic's personality, and referred to the other people, J.D. Vance, Stephen Miller, all the guys in that work there in the White House as junkyard dogs, okay? And that Trump was in the Epstein files. So there was that, right? So having this speech, and then the whole thing with his ratings hit all-time lows. The lowest I saw was 31%, okay, in one poll. So it was a bad, bad week. And what happens? Well, it was Susie Wiles' idea to do this speech where and they branded it as an economic speech. That's how they sold it to the networks, because the networks will not air a partisan speech like that, right? They will not preempt to air a partisan speech. So he said it was about the economy, but barely talked about the economy, right? So my first reaction was, why is he yelling? Why is he yelling? He was screaming just screaming. And then people also were remarking about the speed which he said things. Because, remember, this is a guy who can't stay awake in a meeting, in any meeting. The guy who calls Joe Biden Sleepy Joe, falling asleep at every turn, is the funniest thing to me. But he couldn't. He was like, it was like, it was a total 180. And it made me think, because I'd read the article from Susie Wiles earlier that day, and it made me think about what she said about Elon Musk microdosing and being a huge ketamine user. And I'm starting to wonder if Donald Trump if somebody is drugging him, because the way that he falls asleep, my grandparents are 90, they don't fall asleep like that randomly. Your dad's over 80, he doesn't do that, does he?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't doze off like that. No,
Yeah.
no,
And
no.
And the only time I doze off like that is if I've taken Benadryl for allergies, and it'll be like, but and the only other time I've ever seen people do that, or if they're on some kind of drug. So I'm wondering if his people are like slipping him stuff to calm him down, slipping him stuff to send him up. But at any rate, he was what, if I put on my psychology brain, he was very manic. It was very manic, but he didn't say anything of substance, right? He starts off by saying that he inherited a mess. Okay, here's the thing. He lied throughout. Nothing he said was true. Everything was patently false. But that right there, that way that he started out the gate, oh, I inherited a mess. No, you left a mess. You inherited what economists across the world were seeing was the strongest comeback economy in the wake of COVID, right? And it was just insane, because here's the thing. You can, like what he said about inflation. Well, here's the truth. Inflation actually started, he came in to the White House with 3% inflation. Guess what inflation is right now? 3%. It hasn't changed. So it was a series of lie after lie after lie after lie. And it doesn't make you, when people talk about affordability being the problem, this man said nothing that made it evident that he even understood what people were dealing with. For example, one of the things that he said that I just giggled at was when he said, gas prices, we got gas prices way down, and in some places it is $1.99. There's nowhere in America that has $1.99 gas. AAA confirmed that, okay? So here's the thing. There was no need to put a number to lie behind it. That everything, put it this way, if I always wonder why he doesn't take the path of least resistance. It's like Lauryn Hill said in X Factor, it could all be so simple, but you'd rather make it hard. Right? That is literally what he is doing. Because it could have been, he could have just said, gas prices are down now, and left it at that. Because the truth is that gas prices have gone down, which is what they typically do, like right before a holiday anyway. So, I mean, he could have said that. But then there was the pettiness also earlier in the day of the little True Social screeds that he put in bronze under the presidential photos, which again, wasting tax dollars for that, when actually tax dollars could have been put towards subsidies to help lower gas costs so that he could actually tell the truth. But it's just absolutely ridiculous. So then we go on. One of the things that he said that I don't understand why no one has been covering this, but he said he ended the war in Gaza. That's not true. There's still bombing. There's still fighting going on there. He didn't end that. They had a paper agreement to a ceasefire and then didn't cease fire. Period. There's no getting around that. There is one of the other things that got me was we were talking about healthcare earlier, and the cost of prescription drugs. Oh yeah, we got the cost down 300, 400, 500, 600%. Just say, and I'm saying this as a communications person, just say I made a deal to bring down drug prices. When he starts giving impossible and improbable numbers, everybody knows you're lying. Because you know what? 100%, I have a prescription monthly. That costs $2,900, okay? Monthly. If you got that down by 600%, what is 600 times 2,900? I would be getting money back. Pharmacies would be paying people to take the drugs because you can't get anything down more than 100%. 100% is free. When you start getting into more than 100%, you're talking negatives and returns. So it's just patently ridiculous, right? I mean, beyond that, I mean, there was a lot of exaggeration, but the other part too for me is we've taken in all this money, where is it? Show us. Show us. Because guess what? Whenever we bring in money and revenues in a budget, and I know this from having worked for a state government and how things go into a state budget. When you bring in the revenue goes someplace. So where are you putting the money? And where is it coming from? They have to account for this, because guess what? If they don't know what money is where and coming from where, Congress can't allocate it. And the sad part is because Congress holds the purse strings, it is very sad to me and very insane to me that not one person in Congress has said, hey, where's the money at then? If all this is coming in, where's the money at? But remember the thing about the tariffs. The American people paid the tariffs. So saying that we brought in $18 trillion of tariffs, and being proud of that. So, $18 trillion in taxes. That's what it is.
Let me ask, do you think that a number of Americans are just not even paying attention to him anymore? They don't believe him anymore?
Well, I think people with common sense and active brain cells are waking up. I mean, here's the thing. If people are happy and they're like, I'll vote for him again, I'll do this, I'll do that, and this and that, guess what? Those are people you're never going to fix. Those are people you'll never get to. You'll never get to. And guess what? Do you know how little I care about those people? Do you know how unbothered you have to be about those people? And that's why I think when it comes to the next races, there's no point in Democrats trying to even appeal to those people. The brain rot is so deep. It's so deep. They're not ever coming out of that hole, and they're content with it because guess what? As we say every time, he hates the people they hate. And for them, that is more important than being able to provide for their families, period. Because what other conclusion can you come to with that, right? What other conclusion can you come to? These people can't even do simple math. Okay? They can't even do simple math. How do I know this? I'm looking at our comment section. They can't do simple math. So why would we expect them to take? They can't do the simple math to see that, hey, everything he said, I'm paying more. What is he talking about? All the prices are way down. No, I just paid more at the grocery store. I can't afford to do this. People are doing that. And here's the thing. You can fool people some of the time, but you cannot fool them about the things that they pay for out of their pockets. I'm going to tell you something too. I live in a state where rent is extremely high. I mean, I don't think anyone in any red state can comprehend a studio apartment being $3,000 a month. And also in order to qualify for that, you need to have make 3.5 times the rent per month, right? I don't think anyone can comprehend that. And I will say this. It is quite evident that they don't care about their own pockets. We could have nice things. We could have nice things. But the obsession with people on in certain spaces, their obsession with people like me, with people who look like us, Dr. Vibe, their obsession with that rather than their obsession with doing better for themselves is greater. And I'll be perfectly honest. I have seen people who are like, wait a second, I did vote for him, and what he's saying is not true. There are people who are getting to that point. There are people who are getting to that point. And I won't deny that there aren't, because there are people who are. And I've seen interviews with those people saying, hey, yeah, I did vote for him on this. I did vote for him on that. But this isn't what I was expecting.
What do you have to say for him giving $1,776 to military individuals?
Well, guess what? Well, here's the thing. It's not new. They'd already planned on doing that. Congress already approved that. But the part for me is the lie. The money, he took the money from their housing, from a housing supplement, and that's what they're getting. They're getting money that they would have gotten anyway. Because Congress, again, he didn't approve that. Congress already approved it. And checks aren't being mailed out. It's being direct deposited. I mean, that tells you also how out of touch he is with just how general machinations work. We should be helping the military pay for their housing. That's common sense. But to try and market it like, oh, this is something that I'm doing. Like he said, oh, that no one realized that I was doing this until about 30 minutes ago. That's because no one knew that you were going to take credit for it until 30 minutes ago. But Congress had already voted on that a while ago.
So we have one or two comments.
Got a lot of comments.
Yeah, the Walla Mala says Americans took a beating due to tariffs, and also says that
right.
That there's more vacant homes than homeless people, yet rent is still too high.
Right. Yeah, and that is what it is.
Well, then let me ask and let's slide in indirectly the whole situation about healthcare, right?
Mm-hmm.
And look at, and even I think it's a sub topic from this, also from the speech, that Mike Johnson sent the House home.
Yeah, I mean, again, right? That's just it. And the part for me about this healthcare piece, like we talked about it earlier. It is insane that you have enough people there who voted for the resolution that would force the vote, and instead of doing what he's supposed to do, Mike Johnson said, go home. This is the second time that they were supposed to take a vote on something, and he sent them home to avoid a discharge petition. This is the second time. He's an ineffective speaker. I mean, bottom line, what was voting on it going to hurt?
Okay, let me come back to the speech. What do you feel the purpose of the speech was?
I think it was a bad week. He needed to feel better about himself. He wanted to scream at people that he thought were, not praising him enough, and to get the subject, to get people to stop talking about Susie Wiles, her interview. That was it, because he didn't offer any information. We don't even know. I mean, what most people were sitting there waiting for is, are we slow walking into a war with Venezuela, which we are. And he said something about them stealing our land.
Oil.
Well, first of all, he said they stole our land, and but here's the other part, which tells us he doesn't even know where Venezuela is. Okay. And then he talked about the oil. Well, the oil he's talking about, that's like 60 years ago. 60 years ago.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That doesn't. I don't get the game behind that speak.
I don't either. I don't. And it just doesn't make sense as to why this it doesn't make sense as to why he continues to go the hard way. And I'm sorry, but there is always a path of least resistance, and he acts like he cannot. He has an aversion to it. And for those people that don't understand what the path of least resistance means, because I do see that we got quite a few trolls here, so I know they don't understand. Let me explain this. It means when you're on a road and there's a path, you can take there's a shorter distance to get somewhere, an easier path, or there's a path that's a bumpy road full of obstacles and things, and they'll both get you to the goal. He chooses to take the bumpy road when there's a quicker and shorter path around, like with the Epstein files. Dude, if you're not in it, if you're innocent, release them. Release them, silence everybody, and move on. Period. That's the same thing with even with the economy. It's like, hey, look, it's going to get hard before it gets better, but stick with me. We're on this path. The path of least resistance there, his people just want to see that he cares about them. But he's up here partying with billionaires, building multi-$100 million ballrooms that they will never be able to step in, and has amassed huge amounts of money and quote unquote government contracts. But the government contracts that he's amassed, why is only his name on them? Because any contract that's ever made like that for the United States is on behalf of the United States, not Donald Trump, not whatever the president is. It's the United States. So it's kind of sickening, right? When you think about how, hey, you could literally just go this way, but you're going the hard and long way around things. And in that, everything that's coming at him is really a self-inflicted injury.
So on a scale of 0 to 10, how do you rate the effectiveness of that speech?
It was pointless. It was a 15-minute speech that I will never get my time back from. It was just he didn't inform anybody about anything. It was really just to make him feel good and the sycophants that follow him.
That so it was a waste of time in your opinion?
Oh, big waste of time. Big waste of time. He didn't put it this way. He didn't do anything for himself that will move the needle. If the point of that speech was to convince people that we're on the right path, that things are going to get better, that prices are going down, he didn't accomplish it, because he basically was screaming at people, everything is fine, shut up. That's basically the message that got across. Everything's fine, shut up. I'm doing a great job. Truth be told, if he was doing a great job, poll after poll after poll after poll, and you know how I feel about polls after poll after poll wouldn't be different. I went and I looked at the raw data in a lot of these polls, because that's where the actual information is. It's not in the analysis, it's in the raw data. And I went back and looked at the raw data. And in most of these polls where he is underwater, the majority of the sample that people they pulled were his own people. You know what? Is there something not on tonight?
Why?
What's not on TV? We don't usually get this amount of trolls on a Saturday night at 5 p.m. What's not happening in Magaverse?
Well, I think it's probably a few things. One, it's holiday season, so people have, that's one thing.
Nothing else
And
better
second
to
of
do.
all, well, you said that. And then with this platform they're using, especially on YouTube, we're not only broadcasting landscape, but also vertical. So when we're broadcasting vertical, it goes into the shorts feed live.
Oh.
So that is, you know,
Look,
so
I haven't seen this much hate since I watched the Diddy documentary.
and that's something we haven't even talked about on this show at all, which we can talk about sometime in the new year, because there's still overlap with that. But no, I think that's probably the reason why, because we're broadcasting. We have been for the last few weeks, but it's been nice. Well, it's very high today. Like, this number of people watching live
Yeah.
is,
You know what,
so
though? I welcome it. I think it's great because clearly these are people who haven't been watching this show over the last 6 years. And so the thought that I would be anything other than amused is funny. That's what I'm getting.
So let's wrap in the whole with the speech and all that. What is your take on the whole Susie Wiles interview with Vanity Fair?
Honestly, look, and I've done interviews as a journalist. I've interviewed some pretty famous people too. She knew what was off. She knew when she could say something was off the record. And the reporter said there were quite a few things that were off the record. He didn't, and he kept them off the record. But to say it was disingenuous, lack context, whatever, they could only go but so far with that because he taped every interview.
There you go.
And here's the thing: when you interview someone, usually within the first 10 minutes, they know the direction you're going in, period. And a good journalist, which this guy is going to tell you what the purpose of their reporting is. She consented to 11 interviews. And not only that, but they all posed for photographs. So everyone was aware. They posed for that picture. It reminded me of the Bush era Vanity Fair article pictures. But then, you know what? I also saw the Diddy documentary. You know what else it reminded me of? It reminded me of that Vibe magazine cover with Dre, Snoop, Tupac, and Suge. That's what the picture. It was like. I saw that. I was like, oh, so they were trying to recap this. And by the way, that Vibe cover is it was one of the most awesome covers of any magazine. It's iconic. They should be flattered that they tried to give off the air of toughness. We're serious.
As we start winding down, start looking at our next conversation topic, what were you seeing on social media about people's reaction to that speech?
Honestly, I think people thought that Susie Wiles was being honest, and perhaps sometimes she might have been a little too honest, right? But I don't know that it moves the needle. It tells me this one thing. There is a certain amount of ego because at some point she could have said no. There's ego there whenever you go to interview someone, and to be covered in this is a woman. You got to remember, she's a woman of a certain age. To have a cover story and shoot and everything for Vanity Fair, had to have meant something to her. You know what I mean? For her to agree to 11 interviews, multiple hour long interviews, right? So um I don't I don't know that she I don't know that she thought anything beyond that part of it. But here's the other thing too. It took him, he started it was a year-long process. That's the other thing I need to make very clear, because I listened to his interview and read some of what he explained, his process. He wrote it over the course of a year. And I'll tell you this, when you're doing an interview like that with someone, and it's over an extended period of time, there's an agreement that you come to about the interviews, about the questions, what you won't answer is all negotiated beforehand. All that, there are negotiations before you do this level of interview, of what will be asked, what won't be asked. So for her to say that it was disingenuous, she already knew going into it. I mean, honestly, that's just the practice of journalism, but she already knew going into it what the circumstances are, what the terms were, and at any time over the course of that 11 months, 10, 11 months, she could have said, hey, not doing this anymore. But she didn't.
I find it challenging for someone to say an interview is not valid when you can consent to do 11 interviews over and over and over again.
Huh?
I find it challenging for Ms. Wiles, who's supposedly a great communications person, an organizer, to try to push back the content of these interviews when there
Right.
were 11 of them done.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly it. You did 11. After the first, the questions would have been after the first, even after the second or third, the questions, if the questions bothered her, she could say, where are you going with? Actually, she did ask him where are you going with this? And he answered her, and she never stopped after that. She continued to do interviews.
I'd love to be a fly in the wall in the White House this past week after that interview became published.
Yeah.
And interesting too, and how she seemed to be more favorable to Marco Rubio compared to JD Vance. People may
Right.
not realize, but before she joined the 47 team for Florida, she was pretty high up in support of Marco Rubio. So maybe
Yeah.
there's an end game that she's setting herself up for after 47 leaves.
Well, no doubt that her influence is why Marco Rubio is there. And let's be very clear on this. I think one of the things I took away from that interview was that she knows that some of what he's doing is wrong. Like the whole piece about USAID. But she's like, when I'm outvoted, and just got to fall in line. And let's be clear, the other thing that was said in that interview that tells us a lot was like, he has no clue about what's going on or what any of the agencies in government do. She made that very clear because it was George W. Bush that had to call him and be like, what are you doing with USAID? And by the time that Trump went to go, he's like, oh, I didn't know. By the time he went to go and restore that, Elon Musk had destroyed it totally. I'm not saying that because there are so many moving parts in government, but to not know what any of the agencies really do. Like, for example, one thing that he said in the speech, which tells you he doesn't know how things work, was the Department of Education. We're handing curriculum and everything back to the states. Well, guess what? I come from a family of educators. from K through 12 up through higher ed, including myself, having worked in higher ed for a long time. Yeah, education curriculum has always been with the states. Always. It's not, the federal government doesn't decide on curriculum. States do. State legislatures do. So if you live in a state legislature in a red state and you're complaining about the curriculum, it's not the federal government putting regulations on them. The federal government's role really in K through 12 education is to make sure that the facilities are fair and equal. That is their purpose. They focus on that aspect of it. But when it comes down to curriculum, that's a state level. Why? And you know how we know this, people? Because all of the states have different licensure requirements for the teachers. And they have different licensure requirements for the content areas. So, for example, they have reciprocal agreements, but you can't take the test in the Connecticut teacher's exam is different than the South Carolina teacher's exam to get certified. So it is absolutely ridiculous, right? That he would say that. What the federal, honestly, Department of Ed, the majority of what they deal with is higher ed and higher ed funding. But no curriculum is ever coming out of DOE like that. And guess what? That's what you have a State Department of Education for. You want to know where the curriculum and everything is held and who's doing that? It's in your State Department of Education.
Okay, so we are going to take a quick break and go into our next conversation. So we'll actually have a little bit of an we'll introduce the next conversation by doing this. So hold tight.
Our next story is White House installs plaques mocking former presidents Barack Obama and Joe Biden. Yeah, you heard that right. We'll get into why and what they actually say in just a moment.
It's our next conversation topic. The White House installs plaques mocking former presidents Barack Obama and Joe Biden. Aisha, your take.
You know, I was listening to this. When I was hearing about this, I was sitting outside the doctor's office. You know, so I think for me, the silliness of this all, here's me, trying to see, is this mass in my breast malignant or benign? And this is what the president is doing. That is ridiculous. It's petty. It's childish. It's beneath the office of the president. And I'm just like, and it's a waste of taxpayer dollars. Let's be very, very clear. He's not using his own money to pay for these things. It's just a waste of money. You're talking about government spending. You're talking about, I'm here to stop the waste in government. He is the waste in government right now. There was no need for that. And they were bronze. Do you know how much those cost? And not only do they pay for, because this is the same thing like with the Confederate flags and why people want them down. It's not just that tax dollars go to pay for those flags. Tax dollars also go for the maintenance and upkeep of the grounds and area around it. So it's the same thing here. Tax dollars are going to have to go toward the maintenance and upkeep of those things until he's gone. And what I got from him this week is that he wants something of permanence for his own legacy. And he's enforcing those things on the people when there's actually a 4-year period where he could have done that. He had 4 years to do his own presidential library. It would have been permanent. Period. But these things that he's doing, it might make him feel good now, but there's no permanence to him. They'll be next administration. If a Democrat wins, it's gone. What was the point? To piss people off? Okay, so you might have gotten a reaction, but you might have gotten a little bit of reaction, but then guess what? People are buying groceries for next week's dinner, and you're seeing the high prices, and you trolling former presidents. It didn't bring down their prices.
Comment here from the Walamala. Good to see you. He says, if anyone puts plaques up about 47, he will try to prosecute them for treason.
True. Because he's just petty. Like, you know what? He's as petty as 50 Cent, but 50 Cent with his pettiness, he's got a target. Trump doesn't have a target for his petty. He's all over the place. Which also, I think, is a weakness. What I see from this is that he's so focused on vengeance, revenge, anger, and the pettiness. He's not watching what's going on around him. And I'm not talking about I'm not talking about Americans in general. I'm not talking about Democrats. I'm talking about in his own circle at the White House. I don't know how he trusts J.D. Vance. And especially with his connection to Peter Thiel. Remember, Peter Thiel and Elon Musk don't exactly like each other. Elon Musk was Trump's boy. J.D. Vance was Peter Thiel's. There's that connection there. But also, too, you got to wonder what they're telling him, what they're not telling him. Because honestly, it comes off as if there's something going on behind the scenes there too. Not like they're not making him look good. if that helps. They're not making him look good.
We've discussed this in the past, but I also want, maybe there's a fresh with this story.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that 47 has it for Barack Obama?
The press corps dinner. Because he has no sense of humor. He takes himself way too seriously. And that he turns that into anger. He got mocked, and it made him so mad. He got mocked in the audience, and it pissed him off. There's a love-hate kind of thing going on there too. He hates him, but then on the other hand, there is this, oh, I think we'd be friends. Remember at Jimmy Carter's funeral? No, not Jimmy Carter's funeral. Whose funeral was it? Who was it that died? And they were all there, and he's really like, that was Jimmy Carter, right?
I believe so.
I believe it's Jimmy Carter. And he was just talking to him up a storm, like, oh, yeah, I want him to be my new best friend. It's the same thing that you saw with him, with Mandani, right? There is a hate there and a fascination. And, oh, my gosh, I kind of wish I could be friends with this guy. And you know what? Let me be very clear. I think it's so funny. Republicans forget Donald Trump is not a Republican. He's a racist, yeah, but he's not a Republican. Donald Trump is a Democrat. Donald Trump is a Republican now because he could not win a Democratic primary. Let's be very clear. That is it. He could not win. And everybody that follows him, I'm always amazed at this. They're like, oh, yeah, no, whatever. Yeah, he said what he said about Kamala Harris, but guess what? He also donated to her campaigns too. Donald Trump didn't start donating to Republicans until he became a Republican candidate. And then the donations aren't even out of his pocket. They're coming from PACs. The money that actually came out of his pockets that went to candidates went to Democrats, like Hillary Clinton, like Kamala Harris, like Chuck Schumer. All the ones that he's got names for, we got check receipts. So I think at the end, we're all going to ask ourselves, when all this is over and we have a breath and a beat, ask ourselves, what was the point? What was the point? Some people are going to, honestly, I look at the screed of racism here in our comments by our trolls, and I am not surprised that Trump won. And these people can't get upset when you look and you say, yeah, we've got a racism problem in this country. The problem, the bigger racism problem we have is that people want the permission structure to be racist, but they don't want the consequences of being called one. And that's where we are. That's honestly where we are.
Yeah,
And you get those things, right? Because you get those things because you see it happening. I mean, and it's so funny to me, right? Because they don't have a what do you call it? There's no ingenuity in terms of how they approach things. It's always the same words, always the same phrases, over and over and over again. It's like a rehearsed speech, right? And honestly, when he did his speech, right, the same tropes and things that he pulled out were the typical. He recited them like he memorized the speeches and the phrases over and over again. It's like, oh, the moment he's like, yeah, they're sending rapists from mental institutions and insane asylums, and so, I'm like, you've been saying those exact same words for 10 years. Those exact same words for 10 years, in the same order, the same phrases. And you know what I noticed too? When I start to look on social media, his followers, his supporters, same thing. They say the exact same words, exact same phrases. That's why it's never a shock to me when people do send horrible things to my DMs or whatever. I'm not even on Twitter anymore. I haven't been on Twitter. I don't do Twitter like that. But at the time, it'd be the same. It's the same thing every single time. And so I think that we're at a point where I think people are getting tired of the shtick. And the people who aren't getting tired of it, I don't think they realize how small in number they are compared to the people who either, one, aren't paying attention, or two, don't care. I think the people who believe that they are the majority of the country, it's easy to get that when you only look at a certain news organization, or you're focused on this ecosphere and you're not looking for actual reporting. You're looking for confirmation of what you think and you believe. And I think that's the biggest problem that we have right now with how mainstream media is reporting on this second term.
So look who's in the house, Regina. Regina's in the house saying,
Regina.
She says 47 keeps conflating, quote, political asylum, unquote, with, quote, mental asylums, unquote. His followers don't know the difference and don't care to know.
Mm.
So
Well,
it's
I mean, it's Regina. It's the truth. It's the truth. Political. It's the truth. And by the way, mental institutions and political asylums are literally. I mean, mental asylums are literally the same thing. It's redundant.
hear you.
Thank
Hear
you.
you. Yep. All right. So anything else you want to say on the plaque issue? We can move on if you want.
They read like his True Social posts. It's like somebody just took them and put them in bronze. And so it's back to what the rewriting of history. I worry for this country on that part of it. The rewriting of history is gonna be something.
All right. Let's move forward. Tragic death of Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle. Right now, their son has been charged with the killing of
Yeah.
that, and Rob Reiner has done a lot of great creative things.
Yeah.
But I guess you may want to speak about him, but then also 47's response. So where you want to go with that?
Yeah. It's very sad. It's very sad. I was reading today that his son had been diagnosed with schizophrenia, and that they weren't sure how that affected. But it's Rob Reiner was one of let me tell you, he was one of those directors I just loved, right? I love these movies, but actually as I loved him on the Family, so he could have said nothing. The same way that he said nothing after the state rep in Minnesota was murdered, he could have said nothing. And guess what? Saying nothing might have actually been better for him. But he had to make it about himself. He had to put himself in it. He had to insert himself and make wild projections. I got to say, they've been screwing up all week with these kinds of stories too. Because remember, then he was also the one who announced that a suspect had been arrested at Brown, and it wasn't the guy. Say nothing. You know that comment, say less? Do that. Say less. I think that if he had said nothing, even his own people who support him, like the actor Woods, what's his name? The one who played Byron Della Beckwith, the murderer of Medgar Evers in the movie. James Woods. Okay, yeah, James Woods. James Woods, Laura Ingram. They were just, and I think, some of his own people. Here's the thing: I think he forgot. Rob Reiner, in the public eye, was a beloved. People loved him outside of his politics. They loved his films. Spinal Tap 2 just came out. Okay, do you know how many average white guys who really love that film? Love that film. It's funny, by the way, but love it. And we're excited for Spinal Tap 2. And we're not just talking about people who are on the left. We're talking about people who are on the right. They like his films, The Princess Bride. When Harry Met Sally was changed the conversation about relationships at the time. So he could have said nothing. He could have just said nothing. And I think this was a celebrity. It was going to be a big thing, and he had to be in it. He knew people would be talking about it, and he had to be in it. And those comments weren't helpful. They weren't helpful in terms, first of all, master's degree in clinical psychology here. Trump derangement syndrome is not a thing. It's not a DSM for DSM. It's not a DSM diagnosis. There is literally a diagnostic statistical manual for mental health and mental illness. Trump derangement syndrome, not in that. Okay. So let's just deal with that period. But these people, they were stabbed to death. Okay. And someone who supposedly suffered 2 assassination attempts, you would think would have a little bit more humility about that. Yeah. Somebody supposedly tried to kill you too, right? Because guess what? Remember, remember how upset he was a year and a half ago when there were people saying that they didn't believe that he had gotten shot or shot at. Remember how upset he was and the temper tantrum he threw. And I think that we are at a point. I think we're at a point, and I'm pretty sick of it, where I get to complain about this, but you don't get to complain about the same thing when it happens to you, because you somehow deserve it, and you somehow deserve it because you disagree with me. This is the country we're living in. Because honestly, if he were a child and did something like that, what parent would be happy? What parent would be happy to know that their kid said or did something like this, or is that kind of person? It should be an embarrassment to the country. But guess what? It's not. So
Regina says, when I heard the schizophrenia diagnosis, I realized the Reiners probably did not realize the danger they were in. Had somebody called from the party, California law would have held Nick for 72 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And she also says, I worked with schizophrenics years ago, and they can change on a dime, becoming a danger to themselves or others.
Right.
And others, sorry.
That last part is in the manual. And schizophrenia is in the DSM. Trump derangement syndrome is not.
Also says the guy who was trying to make TDS legit, Minnesota State Senator Justin Eichhorn, was arrested in an undercover sting operation for approaching a minor inappropriately. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. But I did see there were members of the Republican Party that did not appreciate 47's statement.
Yeah. I saw that there were a lot of people who didn't, because there is, I think the thing is there is a point of going too far. Here's what I'm interested in seeing. I think for a few Republicans in the House and some in the Senate, they're getting tired. I don't know that the people on the ground are getting tired. And I because look, Elise Stefanik is out.
Yes.
She's out. Some are saying though that has to do with some comments that she made though, but she's out. Marjorie Taylor Greene's out. They've got a lot of people who are out, and them leaving is they're tired of this. They're tired of it.
Do you think they're tired not only listening it, but also tired of defending it?
Yes. Yes. Because guess what? They didn't necessarily get into politics to have to kiss his behind at every turn. No one does that. I mean, however misguided her foray into politics was, Marjorie Taylor Greene had her own she had her own agenda, her own set of things that she wanted to push for. But it got diverted because this man demanded ultimate loyalty. The hell with the stuff that you all want to do. You just have to do what I want you to do. And that is I think that right there is the problem. I don't, and of course but they are who they are. And it's, but I realize too, they are who they are. And then it becomes that it was a personal slight because Marjorie Taylor is back on her trans BS again with, people's healthcare is going up and up and up. And she wants to sit and vote on this trans bill. It's like, come on now. Let's refocus and reshift and focus on these rising healthcare premiums. And also, too, giving people $2,000, a one-time $2,000 payment, if their healthcare premium goes up to $2,300, they're still going to have to pay the $300, and then it's still $2,300 every month after that, which tells you he really doesn't know how things work. It's I honestly think that when he thinks this, he thinks that, oh, I'm giving people $2,300. They'll use that $2,300 to pay for their health care, and that one-time payment will cover the premium. I don't think because remember, he doesn't pay his own bills. The bills that he does pay. He doesn't pay his own bills. So there is that part of him where it's like, okay, well, this is what it must cost. If I give them this, they'll be set for a year. No, it's every month. And it's like, you might have been able to do that back in the 80s, but that's the other thing I've noticed. He really is stuck in the 80s image of himself. We're living through that. He's a lot of, we have to remember, this isn't a man who does his own grocery shopping. He's not a man who drives a car. He doesn't know what gas really costs. He doesn't do any of those things for himself. So when he talks about price and cost of things, he has no idea. Because guess what? He's never had to do those things. I think people forget. Donald Trump has never been your average Joe. He was born into wealth. So to think that he's like the average or working class American who, gets out of high school, decides, am I going to college or am I going to the workforce? How do I pay these bills? I've got kids. I've got a car note. I've got a mortgage. I've got rent. I got this. I got that. He's never had to do that. There was always either enough money there for somebody else to take care of and pay the bills, or banks trusted that because he's rich, they'll get their money back. So we'll just flood him with lots of money. And that's how it worked. And I am not surprised that he doesn't get what people are living through. You can't have sympathy for something that you've never cared to understand, tried to understand, or even come in contact with. The very first time that Trump had really had contact with people who weren't wealthy was when he started doing rallies. But he was able to convince them that he was like them somehow. I don't know how.
Okay, so Regina is in strong as usual, saying Stefanik debased herself on so many levels. After failing to become VP, Speaker of the House, and UN ambassador, she finally crashed and burned. Mm-hmm. And then she also says, it's interesting watching the two warring parts of the GOP, America First versus MAGA.
Yeah.
And she also says, imagine if Obama's original plan, universal health care, had been passed instead of having to compromise with the ACA in 2010.
Well, you know what? We have been FDR tried to do universal health care in the 1930s. And you know what stopped it? Which is why you don't have universal health care now. They did not, if there were people in Congress who, if they could not limit who got it by race, in other words, if you're making it for everybody, and it's not a whites only thing, and that was particularly out the South, we're not going to vote for it. So they didn't push it because it would have been for everybody.
Interesting. Interesting. All right, let's move to our last conversation piece of live of the year. Netflix strikes a deal with iHeartMedia on video podcasts, and TikTok signs a deal to sell U.S. unit to 3 American investors, Oracle, Silver Lake, and MGX.
Okay, so I don't even do TikTok. You guys know that. I just watch the videos sometimes if somebody sends me one or if I see them on Instagram. This is too much. We're going to get to a point where only 2 companies own all the digital technology in this country. I really don't think we're talking about, you know what? Competition is what the markets need. This is creating a situation where there is no competition. You know, it's funny. They announced, they strike this deal and almost immediately announce. I see the announcement of Charlemagne the God getting a new Netflix show or series that came through a deal with iHeartMedia, right? I'm like, oh, so this is the direction that we're going in. I don't expect anything mind blowing to come out of it if they're only going to promote certain things and certain people. I wonder what that's going to look like. So iHeartMedia does a lot of podcasts. They do radio. So now we're going to start bringing radio shows to Netflix, is what it feels like.
Let me clarify this then for you a little bit. So what the deal is that the video shows are going to go to Netflix. The audio shows will stay on whatever platform they are on.
Right.
But I think down the line, I have a feeling that what Netflix also wants to do is get in on Spotify.
Yeah. Yeah, which won't make the artists happy, because if Netflix gets on Spotify, the very little amount that they make is going to be even reduced even more. But also too, you have to worry about Netflix going the route of Disney. You know how Disney now is, I forgot who it is. I forgot what AI. I think it was ChatGPT. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they had an agreement. They themselves and OpenAI have got into an agreement, from what I'm understanding.
Right, and there is a thing that they're doing where Disney is going to allow people to manipulate some of the the art and those things that people are used to, the characters and stuff. Well, if Netflix gets to that with Spotify, the next step beyond that is allowing people to use artists' songs.
Yeah,
to do any kind like remixing and things like that. Yeah, it's going to be. I think that artists aren't going to be happy about that. I think they're not going to be happy about that at all.
Aisha, I want to get your take on this now. So do you feel that, because in the whole game is Netflix wants to go at YouTube. That's their main target in all of this.
Right.
Do you feel the average consumer who doesn't have a subscription to Netflix will pay to watch these lists of shows on Netflix?
No, but but the thing is that Netflix will still make money, because if these people have an iHeart, if they have an iHeart subscription, or if they fold that deal into Spotify, have a Spotify subscription, Netflix still takes money off the top. And that's the sad part about it. Do I think that is this going to grow their subscriber base? No. Actually, I think they might be in danger of shrinking it, because oftentimes what happens is with these monopolies and with these mergers, when they do these things, the quality of whatever it is goes down.
I'm just wondering, because one of the things I'm hearing a little bit more and more these days is this: how much the price of streaming subscriptions have been going up.
Yeah, yeah, and the streaming subscriptions are going up, and then and how do we know? And then how do we know that how this is deliberate? Well, we see the people at the top making the most money. I mean, Jeff Bezos from Prime Video alone, they've got streaming. He's definitely not losing any money. But also too, back down to this, when you talk about, like, for example, I think TikTok is on the path of becoming a streaming, having a streaming service. Like, when I mean not so much the digital social media platform, but becoming a streaming service to where TikTokers are going to be able to compete for TV shows, making their own series and things like that. I have a feeling that's what they're going to get to. And then you have to watch who's on the back end of this. So the people who bought this, our government still has its hands in there, by way of the president's son-in-law, because Silver Lake is his, right?
Oh yes, so yeah, Silver Lake is he's involved with that. But just reading a story here from online, and it was published this week. It says cable providers see first increase in subscribers in 8 years. Is it too late to reconnect the cord? For the first time in 8 years, traditional cable providers saw an increase in their subscribers. The rise came during the third quarter of 2025 amid soaring streaming service fees. Over 303,000 subscribers returned to traditional cable providers in Q3. Light reading reports, citing Moffett-Nathanson's latest cord-cutting monitoring report. Industry and analysts attribute the increase to a combination of factors, most notably reduced subscriber losses among traditional providers and strong performance for internet-based services known as virtual multi-channel programming distributors, VMPD. Despite encouraging figures, analysts warn the gain may be temporary. Much of the growth was concentrated in the period coinciding with the start of the NFL regular season. A historically strong quarter for pay TV is millions. So it's in streaming for here. As I read further in this story, streaming services once cheaper than cable are getting more expensive. On average, U.S. viewers pay for 4 streaming services, spending $69 a month, up 13% from last year, according to Deloitte's 13th annual digital media trends report published in March. Cable or satellite costs about $125 a month, but many streaming subscribers are frustrated by extra fees for new movies and regional sports blackouts. I can read more, but I'm going to leave it at that. Go ahead.
Cable is disgustingly expensive here. It is outrageous. I mean, I got rid of cable because my cable bill was like $300+ a month, and because and most people typically get their internet and their cable same place, put it on one bill, it's fine. But streaming, the cost of streaming is getting out of hand. I think, like, whose service is it that's like up to $24.99 now?
I have no idea.
One of them has a service that's up to $24.99. It's like, okay, you will do without the ads, ad free, et cetera, those things, right? That we'll charge you more to get rid of the we'll watch ad free, no problem, or you have access to these more channels with this if you get a high. It just is. people are trying to curate a TV viewing experience that matches their budget and don't have the ability to do that anymore the way that they used to.
Well, it's interesting because more and more people are watching YouTube on big televisions. Uh,
Mhm.
like one thing I'm not a big fan of YouTube is if you don't buy the premium, you get those ads. You get
Mhm.
those ads. But I'm willing to work around that. Um,
Mhm.
okay, so just catching up on some things. Regina said FDR's administration also
Yeah.
promoted redlining. She also says Charlemagne the God gives me stomach ulcers. She says that Netflix is in and out of monopoly that I hope will be broken up along with a bunch of other media groups in the future. Not in this administration's time. Sorry to
And
tell you that.
honestly, if Netflix had just stayed by itself, just making videos available to people and creating shows and stayed in that lane, honestly, I think that they would have been fine. It is the greed factor. Well, we want to be the number one and the only, and I get that, but you were the first, and people were, here's the thing. It's come down to the point where if a certain studio, if a TV show is done by Paramount, you can only see it streaming on Paramount. If it's done by ABC, you can only see it on Disney, maybe, or Hulu. And they make it so that you have to buy both, right? They want people to buy both. And the same thing with Netflix. Netflix shows everything else, and then there are the ones on Amazon. So it's broken up such, bless you, it's broken up such that if you want a holistic experience, people end up having to buy all of them. You know what I did? I got rid of a lot of mine, but I picked up one. I picked up Acorn TV, and I love that because Acorn TV. Oh God, there are murder mystery shows up the wazoo, but I like watching the crime dramas and things from other countries. None of
Yes.
I love seeing the shows out of New Zealand, out of
Mhm.
Canada, out of Nigeria, out of the UK.
Yes,
I really,
UK crime drama is really good.
yes, it is.
It's
So
really good.
so is Australian. The
Yeah,
Australian
there's
ones,
some
oh
really
yeah,
good content program globally.
yes. So I mean, honestly, if I'm not watching news, that's what I'm watching.
Good.
Is the Acorn TV, or I'm watching videos on Instagram for my entertainment now these days. There are very few TV shows that I make it a point to watch. Sometimes it's
Dateline,
yes, Dateline, yes. I like
48 hours.
48 hours. 48 hours. I like to watch the older ones. I watch the 48 hours. But see, that's the other point. That's the other point is that Dateline has a streaming channel, Dateline
Yes,
24/7. So does 48
48
hours.
hours. Yes,
So
yes.
I don't even have to watch them on network TV. I would
True.
rather go to their streaming channels. If I'm gonna watch Dateline, I'm not sitting to watch just one episode of Dateline. I'm
You
sitting
watch
to
a block.
marathon. So let me be like, oh, I'm gonna go Dateline channel. Not only that, but there are like 3 different streaming channels on, that have Dateline. So you have your pick. If you don't like what's the Dateline episode that's on this one, there are 2 other channels streaming different episodes. Same thing with 48 hours.
Yeah.
Um, and also TV One has one. So between that with watching Dateline, 48 Hours, Fatal Attraction,
You're good.
if I'm not watching those, I'm on Acorn and I'm happy. You know,
So
so so they really are like I agree with Regina. I think they're gonna lose subscribers. I think people are going to have to craft their experience to their wallet. And
she
not only
also
that, think
says,
about
don't forget a lot of cell phone providers are including
yes,
free streaming services. I get 3 for 3. So this is an important point too. The battle
yes,
when it comes to media going forward is on this device.
yes, yeah,
This is the battle. This is
yeah,
where the battle is, and this is where still YouTube is still ahead of the game.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I watch all my shows on my tablet.
There you go.
I take my tablet, I lay down, and just I have a thing to prop it up, sit there and just watch my headphones, and I will. Usually, I'll fall asleep anyway. Let's just be honest. I will binge the dramas on Acorn TV and just fall asleep. And that's
All
how I
right.
fall asleep. Oh, by the way, my favorite one right now is Madame LeBlanc.
Okay.
It's a good one.
Let me ask. What do you think about the TikTok deal allegedly finding going through?
So last week they were like, "Oh, it really isn't a deal. It's just on paper. We don't know." And now all of a sudden it's going through. I don't know how it's going to affect anything or anybody because I don't do TikTok. So I'm like,
But Jared does.
Yeah. Well, you know what though? I'm interested to see how the payment structure for content creators will change. I'm also interested in what restrictions they put on the content that people can make. Because if they start with telling people what they can and cannot say, that's going to be a problem.
All right. And Regina says, yes, UK crime drama is excellent.
Yeah.
That's it. There's a lot of good UK drama shows, crime drama shows out there. Silent Witness.
I put that on my watch list after I finished Madame LeBlanc. That's the next one.
Silent Witness that's been on for years.
Oh, I love the Murdoch
Murders, Murdoch Mysteries. Yeah. Okay.
Murdoch ones. And I've always loved the Miss Marple ones.
Okay. Well,
but yes,
I'm sure
I put on I put up a whole list. There's one. What is the woman's name? Oh God, what is it called? There is one with it's a Black woman. She's British. She's a British detective, and I just saw that when I put that on my watch list. I'm gonna do that over the holidays.
All right. So Regina says, exactly. TikTok has already restricted many progressive creators, and she says also progressive politically contributors.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to see a slack off maybe in the world of TikTok. All right. I think that is it.
Yes.
I think that we are. I'm just trying to get my scroll here because I'm not. Okay, that is it. Before we let you go, any predictions for 2026?
Well, my first
prediction. You want to wait till the new year and give them, or do you
no,
want to get some?
No. For him, my first prediction for 2026 is that we are going to come back strong. New shows, us, you, me, and LaLa just keep pushing forward and keeping people informed. I do think that we're going to see a shift by summertime when we're in full campaign swing, full campaign mode. I do think that this time next year we'll be looking toward the swearing in of a Democratic-controlled Congress. I don't think that it won't be hard fought. I think that it will be hard fought, but I think that what we're going to see come January, you're going to see more people, I think, on the GOP side in the House say that they're not running. I just think they're going to go home. They're going to be home for a month. They're not going to want the hassle. The hassle, not even a month. It's going to be like 3 weeks, but still the hassle, the hassle and the things. Because remember, when they go back to their district, they got to deal with the people. It's not the same as being in DC when you're removed from the people in your district and what they're saying and stuff. Yeah.
What do you predict for 47?
More falling asleep at press conferences. I'm sorry. The press conference that he fell asleep at the most, where I'm like, why didn't you guys give him something? No dose, coffee, something. was the one about marijuana, changing the scheduling for the marijuana, and he's like falling asleep like he is a major stoner. I this was like, the last thing you need to be doing is advocating for that while you're falling asleep. But I think that I think that he's gonna be lame ducking.
Some people say he's
Yeah.
already in that.
Well, yeah, he is, but he doesn't like it. But I do think that he is going to be lame ducking, and I think that he's also going to be working at trying to find a way to run again in 2028.
Yes, I think that is going to become more
But
and
you want
more.
to know? But you know who already made her endorsement for 2028? The soon-to-be Erica Vance. Yes, she said that she endorsed JD Vance for 2028. And so what we said before, it starts. And so it starts. Lucia, you're in danger, girl.
Okay. And I'm sure when we come back in New Year, we'll have some more predictions since it'll be early in the new year. So,
yeah,
as we always want to say thank you, Aisha, as always, for another incredible year. And we're speaking definitely health-wise, it'll be a better year.
Yeah,
next year, and be a better year for the country too, right?
Yeah, I just, you know what? I'm glad for everyone and thankful for everyone who has been with us all year. In the last 7 years, really, right?
Yeah.
Last 6 years. It's been 7. I can't even see.
I can't keep up. I'll get the right.
Who's been with us since 2017 when we were audio only, and up through now. It's just, we're grateful. We don't take it for granted, and keep rocking with us every Saturday, 5 p.m.
There you go. Before we leave, as always, if you want to get in touch with LaLa, there is her website, lalakey.net. Also, her Etsy store, etsy.com/living shop/living the LaLa life. And then we'll let Aisha do hers full screen and put her up right here.
You can read my work at Medium. You can find me, which is at aishakstaggers.medium.com. You can find me on Blue Sky at akstaggers.bsky.social. And you could also read some of my work at Friendo Media and Substack, which I rarely post there too. So if you're looking for me, you can find me mostly on Blue Sky. That's where I usually am. And my blocking finger is strong, so be forewarned. But if you want to just chat and share some insight, share some things, articles, things like that, I'm always looking for that.
Right. So as we shut it down, a few last things. As always, subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Also follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Substack to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms I'm a part of. Email me dr.vibe at the dr.vibeshow.com. And if you want to find out more about moi, here it is. Just go to taplink.cc/the dr.vibeshow.com. And also, too, you can watch replays of this epic conversation at the Dr. Vibe Show YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and the Dr. Vibe Show website, the dr.vibeshow.com. I want to say thank you to everybody for another incredible year, especially some of the regulars. We have Regina, who's in almost every show, Jen, Enlightened Beings, JJ Mars. There's others, but if I forgot to mention, it's my head, not my heart. But as always, looking forward to another great year. And if you celebrate over the holidays, do. And if you don't celebrate over the holidays, celebrate yourself. So as always, if your life is a dream, if you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions, aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. If you're not making money, make history. Try to do both and make it better. God bless. Peace well. Keep the faith while good, and let's have an incredible 2026. Be well and keep the faith.
To understand how afraid I am of any member of the rodent family that's down to squirrels and chipmunks. Okay, I cannot stand all members of the rodent family. Rabbits, bunnies, no. What else is going on that day? I mean, is there something we're supposed to be doing?
Why are you going there? Why are you going there? You know I'm going to ask you. It falls the same day as the inauguration of the new president.
The what? Excuse me? I'm sorry?
You mean so in other words, Monday.
So onesies. Now, folks, don't ever think you're going to see us all on a show with onesies on. Don't do that.
You might see me. You might see me.
You'll see me and you'll see me and LaLa, because we oftentimes wear ours.